So today we're up in Baltimore, Maryland, and we're visiting Sagamore Spirit Distillery. They're doing a bit of renovation here to the restaurant that's next door that they're sort of associated with, but down here on the bay in Baltimore, it's going to be a beautiful place. Well, it is going to be a great place to hang out when it's a little bit cooler and finished. So Sagamore Spirits, they are dedicated to rye whiskey. Now you may say, what is rye whiskey? So the main difference between rye whiskey and bourbon is basically bourbon needs to be 51% corn and rye must be 51% rye. So there you go. So, I better do an intro. Look at that big boat. I wonder what that boat does. Anyway, boat stuff, I guess. So quick intro here. Let's speed it up. Well, that's an upbeat entry. So these guys are closed Monday and Tuesday, so keep that in mind. They've got a pretty cool gift shop here. So one thing to know is that Sagamore Spirits was actually started by Kevin Plank, who's the billionaire founder and CEO of Under Armour, which sort of makes sense because as you come down this road, they're building a big, huge Under Armour sports campus, and you'll see later on they've got some really nice Under Armour shirts. So the gift shop was nice, small, had the normal assortment of different things, candles, coffee. They had a couple of special ones that Manhattan finished, which is basically their rye, and this, had a quick pause there to check pronunciation, Albarino cask finish. Now both of these is like I say, they're normal rye finished in either Albarino casks or a Manhattan cask. What is an Albarino? Basically it's a white grape. So basically, yeah, white wine finished rye whiskey. There's a couple of white wine finished rye whiskeys I really like the Bardstown Doinsy Daisy or whatever. Fantastic. This one was not quite that good. We sampled it in the tastings. Some other stuff over here. These looked very interesting. They had all sorts of focus, like apple sour, like RTDs or ready to drinks, premixes, whatever you want to call them. We tried one of them in the tasting. I think it was the ginger one, that honey paloma. Oh, that sounds delicious. So these were something, we actually got a couple of them, and we had the ginger rye one, which tastes just like ginger and whiskey and ginger. And we had that pineapple one, I think, which was also great. And some normal Sagamore stuff. Get to their shirts here in a minute. Real high quality shirts, as you would expect from the guy who owns Under Armour. And guess what? They're not Nike. They are Under Armour. So pretty much apart from the general swag that they have with Sagamore all over it, as far as whiskies, they just had those two different finishes and then their standard stuff, their cask strength, their double oak, and their normal. All reasonably priced, and but this is sort of stuff you can mostly get anywhere. The double oak is really good though, the cask strength is also really good, and their standard one is quite reasonably priced. Now they didn't allow me to take video, so from here it'll be mostly just still images. This is their water tower where our tour started. They got some bells up there that are used for nothing except for ringing at 5 o'clock because it's Friday Rye Day. And there's their column still. They have only started to use, now this is the interesting thing, right? So Sagamore is named after Sagamore Farms, which you can see in the map here, and that's where they get all their grain for now for the stuff that they are distilling. But back in the day, this was a very famous horse racing place where the Vanderbilts built it way back in the day in the 20s. So long history in the horse racing. The horse racing was moved to Kentucky, and now it just started producing grain after it was purchased by our billionaire Under Armour guy. So he started using grain to allow him to start distilling whiskey. So up until now, though, they have been sourcing all their stuff from MGP. And now just recently some of their stuff is coming of age, and they can say that they are now a farm to table, or what do they call it, grain to glass. They're pushing that a lot, but yeah. Another interesting thing Sagamore does is they have two different mash bills. One is basically a 95-5 mash bill, so 95% rye, 5% barley, and the other one is what they call a mid-rye mash bill, which is probably looking about 51% rye and then the rest being corn and barley. And they do distillates, completely separate distillates, aging, and then they bring it together in a blending tank just before it goes into the bottle. Here you see some of their stainless steel fermenting tanks. They don't use wood or anything like that, like Four Roses does. And you can see in here in a minute, they have cooling coils to basically keep the mash cool, because all the little yeasties making alcohol will get hot because they're dancing around like crazy. So they sit in here for 4 days, I believe they said. This is one that's just a day old, and it starts to mix up and froth away, and the yeasties go to work. And this next one coming up, this is more like 2 to 3 days old. It starts to build up a hard crust on top, and then when the yeasties have made all their alcohol, it flushes out into the next tank. Another interesting thing about these guys is they triple distill. So they have a column still, and then they have these two doublers, which are basically like pot stills, to bring the alcohol percentage up. Most places only have one doubler, so basically coming out of here it'll be 135%. Now it's good to see they're not pushing it to the legal maximum, which is 160%. You can't come off this still at any more than 160% and still call it bourbon. But the lower the proof you can sort of keep it, the more flavors you keep in that distillate. So prove me wrong, I guess, but that's how I feel. Here's some more plumbing behind Penny here. They call her Penny. And there's the two doublers down at the bottom doing their doubling thing, doubling the double out of it. They also have like an experimental pot still, hybrid still next door. This is the one where they try out some different mash bills, if they're just playing around rather than getting in the way of production. So that's pretty cool to see that they're trying new stuff. And this is their bottling line and where they receive their barrels. So up until really recently, I guess all their barrels were coming in from MGP, and they'd bottle them here and send them out around the world. They did say like 15 countries and 48 states. So yeah, you can probably find it on your shelf anywhere. And then they're also doing a bit of renovation out here. It was way too hot, but I could imagine this would be a great place to hang out, have some drinks, have some food from the restaurant. Really good times. And then we did a tasting. We tasted their standard stuff, and then also that, let's check the pronunciation.
Albarino.
You betcha, Albarino. And like I say, it was really nice. I was really hoping it to be more like the Bardstown, Doisy Daney, probably saying that wrong too, but wasn't quite up to it. And their other stuff, I just didn't get a bottle, only because you can sort of pick it up anywhere. But hey, Sagamore, some fantastic stuff, and I think going forward in the future, it'll be really interesting to see how some of their own distillate is going. They did say that the 8 and 9 year old stuff is still MGP because it's too old, but anything coming up soon or anything out now that's the younger stuff might be theirs. So good old Sagamore, great place to hang out, great thing to do in Baltimore if you're ever in Baltimore. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Just a quick one. Getting back from vacations and stuff like that. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July, and we'll see you next time.